It's nobody's business.
Not this.
Oh.
That's we haven't really talked.
Hi, guys.
Your situation.
Hi, guys.
Are we ready?
Yeah, you're in there, baby.
Are we rolling?
Yeah.
Oops.
Well, welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Hey, look, I think this screen is a little bit off, right? Hold on.
Yeah, your camera's off. I've got you
just gotta
framed
move
as
it a
best I
touch
can.
over.
Yeah.
Say hi, Fiorella.
Hi, guys. It's Fiorella.
How is that, Oz?
Oh, you're beautiful.
Your arm is like cut off. Still.
Your arm's cut off. You got a stub. Yeah, you look beautiful.
See how fam can.
Get your shit together.
Get it in the box and get it together.
Gorgeous. Go for it. Thanks.
All
There
right.
we go. Pasta, you handsome young devil, you're in the picture. That's what you should say, fam. But thank you for telling me about my arm. So I'm Pasta Jardula.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Is
I think
you
so.
know your name?
Are you Fiorella?
I think so.
Fiorella, don't make me do some like imitations over here. There's a lot of people on Rokfin out the gate today because they were all warmed up from the Frank Jimmy interview that took place.
Great questions by Franco. Great questions.
Awesome.
He is awesome. I'm glad he had a lot of people watching. I'm glad, he gets viewers that way. And I love what he did from the switch to Rokfin.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us have been doing, because you can't risk it anymore. It's ridiculous. You can't talk about COVID.
No, it's can't talk about a lot of things. COVID's not the only thing. You can't talk about elections. You can't talk about Israel. You can't talk about, that's fascism at its finest right now, ladies and gentlemen. We're living in it. And we're going to go over some things today and kind of explain some shit, and talk about some stuff out there. But let me just jump in real quick, fam, get some super rays, and then we'll get the show started. We got a fun, packed, full day. Just want to say love to Oz on the ones and twos. Oz, from now on, I want you wearing overalls every Wednesday. Overall Wednesday for everybody out there. Get yourself a set of overalls next Wednesday. I want to see them. Trey Wright, sending love to you amazing people.
Thank you, Trey.
Oh,
we love
Trey
you.
Wright, we love you. And Jackie Pagao.
Jackie.
Hey, I'm so glad to catch you live. Much love and respect to the both for all you do. Thank you, Jackie. You always show your love like Trey. There's some amazing people we have out there, guys. Really, to tell you the truth, we talk about it all the time. Even when we're not on the air, we are so thankful to our fams. FAMS. Fee just put out a fire video the other day. It's got like 15,000 views, I think, on YouTube. You set some shit straight over there, and a lot of people are watching it. I also put out a game show, fam. They didn't like the music. I know you're probably saying, fam, I told you about that music.
Yeah.
I tried to do a game show like around the horn. Yeah, I think politics and music don't mix. I was trying to do something unique. I think the format was great. I'll take the music out, and instead I'm going to do like bombs dropping, like when somebody says good, or boings or something like that. Something to make it fun. I was trying to keep it mellifluous and sweet flowing. It's kind of a spinoff of the show called Around the Horn, and they play music all the time. Going to take it out because the conversations were great and some great perspectives. And it's a game show for the fams. So, if you're one of our fams, we might call on you to come on it one day. So pay attention. Hit us up. Rob McMurtry, as much as I want to enable pasta, I better fill in this so Fee doesn't cancel me again. LOL. Okay, somebody out there, please just send a $2 super.
We're not reading
super Ray without saying anything. Gotta show y'all some love as well. Tony watches closely. Old school Tony. We love you. I hope you didn't freeze to death in Tejas this year. So crazy. Texas got freezing and North Canada got hot. What is going on over there? A lot of things to talk about. So let's get rolling, fam. You got anything else?
Nope.
By the way, hi to everybody on YouTube. If you get a chance to go over to Rokfin, ROKFIN. So, fam, here's what I pulled up. And this is so crazy. Not just because I'm a big fan.
Are we still asking this question?
What's that? We are. Come on. Listen, we understand, our audience understands that the Democrats aren't the lesser of two evils, right? The two-party illusion, I think, that the last American Vagabond talks about, the two-party duopoly, whether you believe they're together or not, whatever the case may be, I think it's a failed tactic to try to go in there and change anything and do anything within those parties. I think we're there. But this particular interview was so important because it really got into the nitty-gritty of these differences. And Nathan J. Robinson and Glenn Greenwald debated on Brianna Joy Gray's show Bad Faith. And let me tell you something. We're going to talk about the discussions between Nathan and Glenn, but I like where Jory is kind of matriculating to, like, you know what I'm saying, where she's going. We saw her at the One Assange rally, you know what I'm saying? And she's starting to discuss and looking at things, you know, she's starting to look at power a little bit differently, I think. And she's really evolving. What do we call it? Blue pilling, red pilling, or?
It would be black pilling.
Black pilling.
But
she said some stuff in this debate related, to tell you the truth. I'm really excited. I'm going to watch more Bad Faith because she did an awesome job kind of directing this debate. Now, this discussion is important because there seems still to be this desire by the leftists, and we know them, we talk about them all the time, that don't want to let go of the Democratic Party, despite the establishment's moving to an uber corporate authoritarian militarized party. And here's the part you highlighted. Nathan, like many others, tries to sell the idea that not only agreeing with conservatives on common sense issues like censorship, civil liberties, and those on the right who are anti-interventionists is not only wrong, but it's dangerous. You know what I'm saying? To me, this is tribalism at its finest, and there's no reason why we shouldn't come together on these common sense policies. So I wanted to break down this debate, and I am so curious for your opinions and your insight on this stuff, Sam. So. I know you're gonna love this stuff because there really is some really great discussions here. So let's start off right off the bat, and I want you to listen to the way Nathan Robinson and this is the mentality, fam. We're leftists, right? Okay. I consider myself a leftist, but yet I don't think that everything the conservatives do is like awful, bad, and evil, and we shouldn't talk to them. If you ever entered into any type of debate or negotiation and you immediately say what the other person is saying, no matter what they say, is wrong, you're not going to get anywhere.
Well, especially as a journalist. Yeah. You're biased. The truth should come before your ideology. And that's not how a lot of the left operates.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And I think I would hope that it would also kind of move on over to people who are having regular discussions to start thinking that, hey, maybe this person has a point. Let's talk about these things. So let's just look at the first clip and watch the way Nathan Robinson kind of frames the right-wing conservatism and his delusion of power, because throughout this whole debate, fam, we'll talk about this one kind of like reoccurring instance or subject or mentality, I should say, this reoccurring mentality where, yeah, I know they're bad, but I know they're evil, but so we have to discuss that. So let's take a look at the first clip and fam, and give me your thoughts about the way Nathan kind of frames conservatism.
And I would not say, as some people say, Glenn Greenwald has changed. I don't want to litigate that exactly. It may be just that I've noticed things that I disagree with that I didn't notice before. I'm not saying that Glenn has gone conservative, but that I have, and I tried to make this a substantive critique of a few points that I think that I see him making that I think are both wrong and frankly dangerous, and that sort of misunderstand the workings of power in the world.
Oz?
Yes.
Can you play that one again, please?
Yeah.
And I would not say, as some people say, Glenn Greenwald has changed. I don't want to litigate that exactly. It may be just that I've noticed things that I disagree with that I didn't notice before. I'm not saying that Glenn has gone conservative, but that I have, and I tried to make this a substantive critique of a few points that I think that I see him making that I think are both wrong and frankly dangerous, and that sort of misunderstand the workings of power in the world.
Okay, so I deal with this frequent attack that Glenn gets often, which is hilarious because you make the same remarks. And the fact that he's framing Glenn as dangerous for mostly, right? I don't agree with anything anybody 100% says all the time, but mostly sticking to truth before ideology. That's what he's saying. I mean, really, he's probably referencing the blatant, free speech absolutism that Glenn pushes, probably how he goes on Tucker Carlson, probably how he views January 6th the same way we do, as an exaggerated event that's gone out of proportion. Those things to him are dangerous. To me, him saying that having those views and that perspective of being able to say, hey, it was not an insurrection is dangerous. Being able to like literally trying to censor the right just because you don't agree with me, with them, that's dangerous. And I think that in itself is the ironic part out of what he just said, because the dangerous people are the authoritarians and the people who only go with ideology first.
Yeah, you know, for me, it's like there's one issue, right? And it's corruption. No matter what other you're involved with, corruption is going to rule all. If the people at the top are corrupt, they're going to make sure your elections are corrupt. They're going to make sure your climate change is not good and they're going to profit off it. They're going to make sure your healthcare is not good. They're going to profit off it. No matter what, all the people that we supported because they were supposed to go in there and do what? Root out the corruption. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I think that a lot of the ways, a lot of these, and I would consider Nathan like a neo-progressive. I wouldn't consider him a neoliberal at all.
No.
You know, he has been vocal against people like Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, and whatnot, but yet he, like Noam Chomsky, views Donald Trump as the most dangerous thing ever. When we understand that if we keep on looking and focusing on Donald Trump, as bad as he may be in the certain areas, that the other mechanisms of institutional power are the ones that will get away with the crazy stuff that are more damaging, I think, than anything else. And I think Glenn's there too as well.
Right.
Listen to this next clip too as well, because it's the same kind of language of always saying, okay, well, you know, everybody says the Democrats have full power, but really the Republicans have the veto and the filibuster and they own state power and they can do this and that. So you always blame the Republicans. You play the team sports, and that's why you can't get anything done. So let's play this next clip and tell me your thoughts on that as well.
Greenwald said to Tucker Carlson in the advance of the 2020 election, the Democratic Party is likely to take over at least one branch of government, which is an alarming proposition because they are authoritarian. I think that actually Republican power is still more terrifying than Democratic power, and also that Republicans are stronger than they necessarily look. They're constantly trying to make themselves look weak, but in fact they have functional veto power over pretty much any legislation, right? It's not possible to pass legislation without getting Republican agreements because of the filibuster. If you look at the state level, Republicans are trying to restrict abortion rights, deny health care to transgender youth, roll back voting rights, control school curricula, ban cities from imposing paid sick leave, all sorts of stuff. And Republicans try and create a narrative that the left are really in control. Now, it's a quote from Matt Taibbi, who says that all the power is on the side opposite Fox News. Glenn has not said that in particular, but he has reinforced what I think is a mistaken understanding of American politics that doesn't see, because he has said that the threat of authoritarianism, for example, didn't come at all from Donald Trump. It comes more from the Democratic Party, which he has described as fascist. I think that, you know, obviously I don't like the way that many Democrats are, show fealty and deference to the FBI, CIA, etc., and that ought to be criticized. But I think we really need to understand it. It is very important to be clear that, to my mind, I share Noam Chomsky's opinion that Donald Trump was one of the worst criminals in human history because of his acceleration towards climate disaster, because of his firing of inspectors general, because of his refusal to accept the election result, because of immigration, labor rights, every issue you want to take. The Republican Party's agenda is absolutely terrifying. And as bad as the Democrats are, I think it is really, really important to be clear on that distinction.
Fam, Oz, is Fiorella framed up perfectly?
She looks okay.
It looks like I'm cut off.
You're a little bit cut off there. Yeah, it's. I'll try and reset the camera. Go. Carry on, guys, and I'll work.
Or you can put us full screen for now if you want.
Okay.
So I don't even know where to begin with that. Like it's just really hard. I can't. It's hard, right? Like at this point, he still believes in the illusion, like the illusion. The parties work off of each other. They literally work off of each other. He's blaming Republicans at a time when Democrats control everything. They control the House. They control all of Congress. They control the Senate. They control the executive branch. The only thing they don't really control is the judiciary branch. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's very little policy differences between Democrats and Republicans. The Republicans appeal to the culture war grift of the right based on Antifa, China, while the left goes on Russia and white domestic terrorism and all of this. And it's set for you to pick a team. And if you continue participating in that endless cycle of playing team sports, as Steve says, you're never going to get out of it. You continue accepting this lie, this illusion that's given in front of you, and you continue blaming one side or the other, and the other side does the same. So it's kind of like an endless back and forth, and it's really sad to see a journalist, because he works for Current Affairs, where Brianna used to work at, have this opinion at this stage where he's like, the CIA and whatever, that's bad. No, it's not whatever. That's the most important part. That's the divide here. The national security state apparatus, the military industrial complex, those people are in power. You're giving too much credit to a bunch of PR narrative management politicians. It's just,
it seems that he's too dismissive too of the three-letter agencies. They deserve criticism, but let's go back over here and all these policies that he talked about, that Trump is bad in this and that, with this and that. And don't get me wrong, Trump came from the whole let's drill baby drill kind of mentality. But what has Joe Biden or Barack Obama, done that's any different?
Or Bush.
It's all the same thing, right? Well, I'm just saying those two Democrats that he's like, the Democrats are, and in that particular area, fam, I think that's where they kind of planted their flag to say, well, the existential threat of climate change is going to kill us all. At the end of the day, Biden's a little bit better than it.
What is Biden doing about that? He's done absolutely nothing.
He's virtue signaling.
And the Green New Deal is like, it's bullshit. What AOC is presenting is absolute bullshit. It is actually dangerous what she's presenting. Like I was for a Green New Deal that was actually an actual law, like a Green New Deal that was going to stop fracking. None of that is happening. And they're again, but we need to vote for Democrats because they're better on the environment. Says who? What have they tangibly done to be better for the environment, to be better for people of color, besides or transgender people, other than virtue signal, other than symbolic gestures? What have they actually done? Nothing, because they never go into economics, because economics would actually fucking help people.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is he does talk about labor too as well, but the Democrats haven't produced any good piece of policy on labor since the 1970s. Nothing really of value. And also too, they have to be that you have to put blame on the Democrats for pushing through NASDAQ. I'm not saying that the Republicans and the neocons, the establishment, NAFTA, excuse me, what did I say? NASDAQ. NAFTA, thank you so much. See, this is why I'm on the couch with fam. She knows my language. NAFTA was pushed through. It crushed, labor in America. All our manufacturing went overseas for cheap labor, so individuals can earn a lot of money. So how can you sit there with a straight face and say, we got to protect labor by going with the Democrats when they're part of the whole process of destroying labor in America? So just food for thought. I thought this was such an intriguing conversation. So now here's Glenn getting into the mix. And I implore you guys, go back, watch this whole video. There's so much to watch. It's only 45 minutes, but it's well worth it.
I think that, first of all, if you listen to what Nathan said, there was a lot of kind of genuflecting to the idea that he views the Democratic Party as flawed, as doing bad things. He certainly has expressed criticisms in the past of figures like Bill and Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden. That's all certainly true. But if you listen to the worldview that he just laid out, it is a very pro-Democratic Party, anti-Republican Party worldview. It's something that would fit very comfortably within the confines of, say, MSNBC or CNN. They have leftists on there who, like Sam Cedar or Mehdi Hassan, whose basic worldview is what Nathan laid out, which is, look, I have my differences with the Democratic Party, but when push comes to shove, like when the rubber meets the road, you're damn right I'm going to be giving my support to the Democratic Party because they're much better and much less dangerous than the Republican Party.
Was that it? Yep. Was that cut short?
Yeah, you cut it at 9:18.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, I thought he went on for a little bit more, but that still is enough to say right there. At the end of the day, what he's going to say is that the differences from people on the left and himself, Nathan, is whatnot, whether they be progressive, they give criticisms. At the end of the day, they're going to end up at the same result, and that's vote for Team Blue, no matter who. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that is, and that's something I want to discuss with you. But go ahead, and I have a question.
I was just going to say, so what's the point then of opposing the Democratic Party if you're ultimately going to continue supporting them? Like, really, what are you doing? You're just then like signaling once again, oh, this is bad. Democrats bad. Just like everybody who voted for Joe Biden is suddenly surprised that he's turned out to be pro-cop, that he's turned out to be an authoritarian, that he's turned out to be very fascistic in his administration. Oh, we're so surprised that the guy who wrote the crime bill and the Patriot Act is somehow who we said he was from the start. Yeah. Like I have lost patience with a lot of these people, as you can tell from my inflection, because it's just like illogical at this point. They're going off their emotions only. There's no logical thinking. I have to support Democrats because that's my ideology and that's that. And there's no like nuance, and there's no like thinking about the issues themselves or about the truth. The truth doesn't even matter anymore. It's about what fits your fucking narrative.
Also, I think it's about understanding power. We have a difference, and we look at power differently.
That's
you know what
true.
I'm saying? I think that's the ultimate goal, because a lot of their suggestions or their ideology is putting band-aids on bullet holes. But what I want to talk about in particular, and what I was thinking about yesterday, it was like, remember when we started the Convo Couch and we would have these discussions about how we're anti-interventionist, and we want to stop the regime change wars because we're passionate, loving people. We don't think that babies should be bombed, and that's the main reason why we want to stop it, right? Libertarians on the other end it's about fiscal reasons. Like, okay, we don't want to deal with the fiscal reasons of war. It's too expensive. It's a drain on our economy. We can use that money elsewhere. In fact, they just want to say, don't use tax money and just let the people decide on how to spend their money. And they're also believing blowback, that it might come back and affect us. Now, at the end of the day, we meet the same conclusions, but we always said, does it make a difference on how you want to get there? We would always say, well, why do you want to not get to war and stuff like that? Now we're faced with a situation where people on the left, where, Nathan will say, well, I'm compassionate. I don't want to see people being bombed, whatnot, but I'm going to agree with the Democrats because of the dictator, and we're going to go ahead and do that. And where the libertarian-minded is, the right-wing libertarian-minded, when it's just fiscal things, they come to the same conclusions as the leftist libertarians like us on the final solution on what to do. So I think that's food for thought to think, is it as important sometimes on how you get there, as long as you get to the same goal of non-intervention and stuff?
I mean, I don't think the ends justify the means always, right? So no. But I think right now, in the time we're in, we have the ultimate fight, the ultimate threat to what everything we really value is the technocratic and corporate takeover of our government. Like, our government is not buying for the people. It is owned by corporations. It's owned by national security agencies. That's in the military, and that's the government. That's it. There's no separation. Oh, corporations are bad. Yes, they're bad, but they're your government now. And that's the problem. And that's fascism. That's exactly, that is actual fascism. So I can't even debate a libertarian. I can't talk about, how pathetic I think the idea of free market is with them. And I will gladly, I hate it when they bring up free market all the time. And so I will gladly debate them, but we can't even have that debate when we could get shut down any day, when we don't have protections for journalists, when we have people, the economic situation of working people, like, getting worse. I mean, there are literal tent cities right now in LA, and areas that were just no tents. And that is not a Democrat or Republican only. It's both of them. It's the whole oligarchy. We live in a democratic state. And you're telling me that Republicans are the only ones that are bad? I live in a democratic state that's let down the working class so bad that, like, all of Los Angeles is, you'll go anywhere here and you'll see tents.
Yeah. Great points, fam. Let's get to the next clip, because this is the glossing over the three-letter agencies. Once again, the Democrats do this, but not. They don't understand power. You talk to a lot of neo-progressives, or progressives, if you want to call them that nowadays. They've never heard of the words DARPA. They don't understand it. You know what I'm saying? So let's play this clip right here and talk about Glenn's perspective on the three-letter agencies versus Nathan's.
You look at, liberal media outlets like MSNBC and CNN, and they're filled with nothing but ex-CIA operatives, FBI agents, federal prosecutors. These are the heroes, the kind of North Stars and icons of the Democratic Party, which was not really true 4 years ago. 4 years ago, Bill Kristol and David Frum were still Republicans, and now they're not. They're now Democrats. And so something has obviously changed in the word work. And then beyond that, you look at polling data where the huge gap exists between Republicans and Democrats on their views of institutions that Nathan referenced, but kind of dismissively so, but that I think are at the center of American political life. Things like the CIA and the FBI, Democrats and liberals hold those institutions, those security state institutions, in much higher esteem, much higher than Republicans do. There's almost no space in Democratic Party circles for criticism of the CIA and the FBI or the NSA or the Pentagon, as we saw this weekend when, General Miley, the Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman, went before the Senate, and the only people who were criticizing him were on the right, and people on the left were kind of saying, this is outrageous. How can you criticize a war hero? I think it's not just the alliances, but the values that have shifted really a lot. So that analysis that would have applied in 2015 to whether Democrats are better than Republicans, I don't think is really quite applicable. And I think it shifted a lot of up people's perspectives, because as the political framework around you shifts, so too does your
opinions, the family, your thought process on that, because I know damn well when we started this thing, like it wasn't like the Democrats were in love and in bed with the CIA and the FBI. Now they embrace them. They put them on their networks. They say, oh, we got to, you know what I'm saying? The defund the Pentagon shirt is more towards the freaking Democrats than it is to some of the Republicans nowadays, because a lot of Republicans or Trumpers, patriots, feel that they were screwed by the CIA and the FBI. So now they're more turning against them than the Democrats, who are like, these guys are anti-Trump. Let's embrace them.
Right. And I think there's a important difference between the people who are Democrats and Republicans and the people in power, because I don't really see a difference between Republicans in Congress and Democrats in Congress in terms of their embracement of the CIA. Neocons embrace the CIA just the same as neoliberals. So I'm not going to pretend that that doesn't happen. But in terms of like the Trump supporters and the right in general, yes, they question government far more than liberals do. And that's just a fact. And I don't think it started as of 5 years ago. I think it started a long time ago. However, we've seen it grow progressively worse over the past, 5-6 years, especially with the after Bernie Sanders ran. I think there was kind of a scare of the establishment that somebody could be that successful and these ideas were that popular. And so then I that is a huge part of it. I mean, that there is that whole embracing, and he did. I mean, what's his face? Him. I forget his name. Nathan was extremely dismissive of the state agencies and their power. And that's the thing. It's funny. Somebody asked if I saw Glenn Greenwald's video of Jimmy Dore, and I haven't seen it because they said, oh, you said similar things. And it's like, if you follow the truth, you end up thinking very similar things. Like, we're on the same page when it comes to a lot of this, because we're operating from the point of this is the truth, regardless of the flack it'll get me called a right winger and this and that. And he hasn't even gone into the election stuff at all, which we have gone into. So it's really telling, crazy how just, how like on point he is when it comes to this stuff, because that's my issue. It's about Nathan not understanding that the power lies within these agencies.
Yeah, I think that's the big, the thing that we find in common with people like Glenn and Jimmy is the fact as to how we look at power and the three-letter agencies, where as if a lot of neo-progressives like Nathan J. Robinson will just gloss it off. But here's also another reason why I think we connect with Glenn is also how we view Trump. For me, Trump was the big boogeyman that allowed, like you said, that process of the three-letter agencies back in the days. It started a long time ago, but it really took a thrust when Donald Trump came into office, because he was the ultimate boogeyman that people hated him so much that they would give credence to the CIA and the FBI and go, yeah, sure, I'm going to agree with these guys because it's but Trump. So let's take a look at how Glenn views Trump. And then, ladies and gentlemen out there, how did you really view Trump? Did you view him as like the crazy authoritarian demon set by Hitler's ghost to come back and thrust fascism on all of us like Noam Chomsky and Nathan J. Robinson does, or like Glenn's point of view, which we're going to play right now?
The other thing is, I think one of the big differences that Nathan and I have is the question of what is power. To me, the question is not that interesting. Like, is Donald Trump worse than Joe Biden? Or is Donald Trump, like, does he have worse views than Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. For me, the question in politics is who's likely to do the most damage? And I think one of the big divisions in liberal left politics is how you view Donald Trump. Like, did you view him as this kind of unprecedented fascistic or even Hitlerian type figure who was in this unprecedented way going to usher in fascism and posed an existential threat to American democracy? Because if the answer to that is yes, then I think it justifies a whole range of things, and not even justifies, but almost requires a whole range of views in order to combat it. You would want to fortify the FBI and the CIA and online censorship and domestic surveillance if you really believe that this political movement was about to destroy American democracy and implement actual fascism. Of course you would hug Bill Kristol and David Frum and John Brennan and Michael Hayden or whoever was on your side in battling against that. That would be rational to do. I never saw Trump that way. I see Trump as this like very weak figure who never got close to even trying to, let alone being able to overcome the enormous institutional authority that exists in the United States that's designed to preserve.
So your thought on Donald Trump, on how you view Donald Trump and whatnot, and how the Democrats view Donald Trump, because I just want to say something really quick, fam, and I'll let you go do this, but it's also kind of crazy to me the way the Republicans viewed Donald Trump, like as a savior, this hero, whatnot. He was either, it was like professional wrestling. You're either a good guy or a real bad guy. And I think it just caused so many problems. So if you honestly believe that Donald Trump was just one institution of power and not like all these other institutions, how damaging can Trump be? I was kind of like, yeah, fuck Trump, whatever. But like, he's not the main issue right here. Right now, the main issue is the military industrial complex and the three-letter agencies.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is a symptom of the problem. He was useful for what he did. I mean, this is why I think he's actually in on the whole thing, because look at all the things that were accomplished by the state agencies after his election, and he's still rich. He gets to be a billionaire, go to Mar-a-Lago, still hang out in the circles he does, and yet the right, deifies him, like sees him as their savior, even still, a lot of them, which is ridiculous. And it's just as ridiculous as the way people view Obama still, but the Democrats. It's that sort of just, putting these politicians as patron saints when they're not. And that includes progressives who do the same thing with Bernie Sanders. That has to stop. And because that is what they grift off. That's what they use. The state agencies, the culture war grifters, the military industrial complex, all of these people, this is what they do. Yeah. They continue doing that. And that's why Donald Trump, like, it makes sense, because if you view Donald Trump as like literally a Hitlerian character, like you just said, then you think he has full authority and he did this and he's a fascist. But really, we are already in a state of fascism because our government has merged with corporations, and no single person, even if they're the best person in the world, can take that alone. That's not going to change from the top. And that's what people need to understand. Well,
I can do it, fam. If you vote for me for president in 2024, I'll clean everything up, ladies and gentlemen. But also too, like you were just talking about the way, the conservatives, and there's some people out there like Anomaly right now is getting so much shit because he's talking out against Donald Trump and whatnot. How many Trump supporters do we know that are like, whoa, I'm not taking this vax. They're against this vaccine. They're not anti-vaxxers, but they're against this vaccine. Yet they love Donald Trump still to this day. And Donald Trump pushed Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. It's like, hello, guys. He said that Bitcoin was a scam.
Yeah.
So he wants you.
He didn't pardon Julian fucking Assange.
He didn't pardon Julian Assange, which is the ultimate truth. I mean, these things that happen, it's like, okay, can we just take Donald Trump for the things he did for you guys that you're happy about and go to the next person or the next movement or the next kind of thing? Because it's obvious to me, because I feel the same way as you. It's like there's more and more evidence every day, pointing to the fact that he was part of this whole theater that we're watching. The next clip is how the establishment, left, and neo-progressives always end up with the same conclusion. So like Nathan J. Robinson will always act like he's anti-establishment, but he'll always end up vote blue no matter who. We got to do this. It's the Noam Chomsky mentality, right? You talk about all these things, and it's so confusing to me. This is awful, but we got to still support them. What? Take a look.
Just to interject. So I think that that's really a clear teeing up of the issues. But a few things, Glenn. I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, you have defended or would come out in defense of the NSA or the FBI or any aspect of the national security apparatus, though I think you're right, Glenn, that plenty of liberals do. And I say that just because I do think there's a bit of a conflating here happening between someone who is closer to a Mehdi Hassan MSNBC host, don't disrespect Mehdi, and Nathan, who I think there's space between me and Nathan, right? But I also don't think it's helpful
I totally agree with you. Like, I think Mehdi would also, if I asked him, say that he thinks the CIA is a pernicious presence in American life. I have no doubt that Nathan would. I don't mean to imply at all that Nathan's a defender of the FBI and the CIA, but I think that that's a lot more important of an issue than Nathan does. Like, it plays a lot bigger role in my worldview than it does in his. That's why I spend a lot more time talking about the union between security state power, Silicon Valley monopolistic power, and the Democratic Party.
Right.
And it plays a big, so I don't mean at all to suggest that Nathan is a fan of the FBI. I don't think he's Bill Kristol. I think there's huge differences ideologically between Nathan and establishment liberals. But I think that the worldview that Nathan laid out, despite those differences, nonetheless brings him to the same destination as.
Yeah.
I cut off a little bit of the same destination as those people who that he would say he would openly disagree with and say, they deserve criticisms, but yet he's going to side with them at the end of the day.
Right. And I think Glenn's even being kind, because to me, yes, he may not be the same thing as a Bill Kristol who openly just embraces these agencies. And that's good. At the same time, if you're ultimately going to end up in the same place, then what good does that do?
Yeah.
It's almost worse, because you are making people feel through your propaganda that because I don't consider at that point, then I don't consider it journalism. If you have these, these things, now you can go by issues. But at that point, you're telling people I'm going to continue to tell you how bad the Democratic Party establishment is, but ultimately I'm going to continue supporting them. So you're contradicting yourself. You're being a hypocrite. And at the end of the day, you're continuing to support the empire and you're continuing to support imperialistic policies that hurt the very things you complain about. So for me, it's, I think it ends up being just as bad, because I don't need you to talk pretty if you're ultimately going to be doing the same thing.
Yeah. And the thing I really, that I could never understand is why people would still criticize people like Glenn, because Glenn is very much like us in our ideology, right? Like, to me, this discussion, I feel like it's us and our old friends that we used to hang out with all the time, that are neo-progressives, that have the same kind of mentality as Nathan J. Robinson. And this next clip he's going to explain, his form of neo-progressivism. And he probably wouldn't like me saying that, his form of leftist liberalism or whatever it is. And I don't think it's justified in a way, but the way he says it, you can understand that it's a little bit different than, let's say, a conservative, neocon, old school Bush loving guy. And I get that, but it's very important, in fact. And even Brianna Joy Gray in this particular video, her opinions on Blue No Matter Who were so great. Like, she's so against it, whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to play this next clip over here, because like I said, this does feel like, us talking to our old school people. And this is a great conversation. That's why I thought this was so important. But take a listen here, fam, and you tell me if there's any legitimacy to Nathan J. Robinson's reasons on why he has the ideology he has. Go ahead now, Oz.
This is actually an important description of I think, the core difference between Glenn and myself, because one of the reasons that I see, and again, that Chomsky saw Trump as the greatest criminal in human history, is because if your emphasis is on climate, if it's on labor rights, which Trump just shredded, if it's on the rights of immigrants, if it's on workplace safety, then Trump is obviously completely monstrous, and it's important to do a lot to stop him. Now, I don't accept, and it's often heard, and this was in Jonathan Cook's article too, this idea that if you think Donald Trump is one of the worst criminals in human history, it justifies doing anything to stop him. Now, the reason that it doesn't is precisely because we can see what the consequences of letting that justify almost anything would be, right? If you say, Trump is such a huge threat, thus we can do anything, including censorship, including mass murder, right? Where do you stop? And then you lose all of your principled commitments. So I think but I mean, again, and I share with Chomsky the belief that you can hold these two beliefs at the same time, which is that you don't have to downplay the very serious threat that Trump poses on all these issues that matter a lot to me. I understand why they are sort of, I don't want to say that Glenn cares about them less, but that, your focus has always been on a lot to do with surveillance, censorship, free speech, and such. But if that is your main focus, then it is understandable that for someone whose main focus is, for example, the fact that the west of the United States is about to be completely on fire, or the fact that buildings are collapsing in a deregulatory culture, right? We would have a very different view of what matters. I mean, I look at state legislatures and I see them currently trying to basically reshape school curricula for political reasons. That really, really deeply alarms me. So in some ways, we do just have a different focus, and that different focus leads to a different assessment of how serious, in fact,
Okay. Bam. Your thoughts on that one too as well, because he talks about the fires on school, the infrastructure, whatnot, and stuff. Yeah. I still think it's this mentality, this progressivism, I can't even say it, neo-progressivism that's putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, right? You know what I'm saying? When you focus on power and you focus on who's calling the strings and who's manipulating government, who's lobbying government, you have to fix that first. Every single one of the people that we were voting for, whether it be Bernie or the squad in the beginning when we were trying to get them in, their whole mentality was, we're going to go in, we're going to take on the corruption, we're going to change the whole culture there. They didn't. They joined the culture. They capitulated to it, stuff like that. So does Nathan J. Robinson have some points here when he's trying to sell the fact that we want to concentrate on these things first? And once again, I think those things are more of a virtue signaling than really actually fixing them at the core. Or is, he completely bonkers, Nathan J. Robinson?
I don't think he's bonkers. I just think his priorities are completely just in disarray. Your priority has to be understanding that no matter how many Nina Turners or AOCs you put in Congress, it doesn't matter, because we don't have fair elections, because we live in an oligarchy. We're under the illusion of a two-party system. So it's comical at this point to me to really hear about, my priorities are this. And I understand where he's cut. I understand why he thinks that way. And it makes it very clear, but that's again, it's putting the cart before the horse.
Yes,
because you're not listening to you're here being alarmist about things that are actually in the full control of these agencies that you are dismissing, to focus on the boogeyman that they put in front of you, precisely to do the things that you fear, and that's why that in itself is dangerous.
Yeah, and I believe a lot of the Democratic politicians are that fox that Malcolm X talked about. They're going to do much more damage when they get inside the hen house, and they're going to come at you with a smile. So let's take a look at this part right over here. We only have 2 more clips here, fan. This is a fascinating conversation, and we'll get on to the next one. But was Trump the real danger? Because that's what Nathan J. Robinson was saying. Noam Chomsky, he's the big danger. Jesse Jackson, we got to get rid of this guy. Or was he the distraction that people were looking on? Because we believe he was obviously the distraction, because we see the other institutions, which are, primarily the deep state, just getting in even further deeper into, taking away our civil liberties and increasing the spy state, the security state. Let's take a look at this next clip. We only got 2 more left, and we'll get on to the next topic.
It's funny, I saw some video today that I did where I did a Democracy Now! Segment that somebody had posted about Russiagate, and there was like 3 minutes of me saying that all the reasons why I thought Trump was this incredible menace, this grave threat to the functionality of a healthy democracy, why he was incredibly corrupt, things that I've said over and over and over and over again. I mean, obviously I'm not a fan of Donald Trump's ideology, nor of his governance, but I look at the media world around me and I see that pretty much everyone outside of like right-wing news outlets are waking up every day and doing nothing but saying over and over how Trump is this enormous threat. People are writing best-selling books about it. Republicans are saying it and becoming heroes of the liberal media. NBC, ABC, CBS, the New York Times op-ed page, the Washington Post op-ed page, the papers themselves are all dominated by that similar theme. So when I think about how I can best use my platform, I don't think about, well, let me go ahead and just echo what everyone else is already saying, because I don't think there's a lot of value in that. There may be value to me. My career would probably thrive more kind of seamlessly and effortlessly. I'd be less disliked or more well-liked if I were to do that. But in terms of the impact, I just don't think that would make a lot of impact. There's all this stuff about Trump being the gravest danger was being said by everybody, from like all those Republicans we just got done talking about to, Nancy Pelosi and Rachel Maddow, to Noam Chomsky and Nathan Robinson. That there was hardly like a need for me to be screaming from the rooftops about Trump's evil. And so instead, what I focused on were the things that I thought were being done to the Democratic Party in response to Trump that were incredibly dangerous, that were being overlooked, like really serious forms of authoritarianism, a revitalization of neocon ideology and the FBI and the CIA as really dangerous institutions interfering in our democracy.
Bam. In a nutshell, once again, I think that's the whole ideology. A lot of people looked at Trump as the most evil thing. And let's be honest, I think we all had a sense, or we had a feeling that they were just more, what's the word? They didn't look at him as the biggest danger. They were more insulted that this nobody has come out of nowhere to come into our space. And how dare he? He wasn't the institutional player that we were used to, that we want to honor and stuff like that, because, we want to honor fucking symbolism and bullshit. So, Glenn taking the avenue was like, wait a second, everybody's focused, or maybe not that they're focused. Maybe they were told to focus on Donald Trump, right. Orange man, bad. So we allow these other entities of evil, not only just slip in the door, but then we'll get people to back these entities and actually cheer on the Clappers and the Brennans, which is, to me, are the most dangerous things in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's very succinct. I mean, at this point, like, Donald Trump was an entire distraction, simultaneously a distraction to continue to pass authoritarian measures, including censorship, including anti-protest bills, including now everybody being labeled as a domestic violent extremist. All of these things happened because people were fear-mongered into Trump derangement syndrome, and they still are. There still are, and we're going to talk about that. So
the last video is the Trump is the one only institution of power, and I think it's going to segue into the next couple of sections. All the other forms of institutions band together. We're talking about Wall Street, military-industrial complex, big tech, big pharma. They all came together, and now those institutions have also moved in unnoticed, and they're not getting the attention they need now. The mainstream media is still trying to talk about January 6th, Donald Trump, bring him back. So they don't have to talk about these institutions that have had just overwhelming, overreaching, authoritarian power. And most of our liberties are being stripped away right in front of our eyes. The fact that we're operating today, not monetized, is kind of sick. And what happened to Matt Orfalia the other day, it's kind of sick. It is real fascism. And a lot of it's due because a lot of people went orange man bad. They paid attention to it. And they still want to stick by their decisions that they made and not admit that they possibly could have made the wrong decision by letting the devil in, who just looks nice with his aviator glasses on, and he's on Time magazine. Let's play this last clip, and then we'll get on out of here.
I also think, and this is, I guess, what has frustrated me a lot about this kind of discourse over the last 4 years is, even if you think Trump is dangerous, like, Trump is one power center in the United States. He's not, I don't even think he's close to the most powerful, even when he was president. But even if you want to say he was, there's tons of other power centers that were pushing it back against him all the time and were doing very dangerous things as well, often in the name of undermining him. And that's what was getting so little attention. And in a lot of ways, American liberalism didn't just start ignoring that, but applauding it. Things like online censorship and, greater power in the hands of the FBI to track people they regard as domestic extremists, and joining with Wall Street and Silicon Valley. You say Trump almost won despite networks that nobody watches. It wasn't just despite that. It was Wall Street and Silicon Valley overwhelmingly funded the Democratic Party. Almost all institutional power was behind defeating Trump because they perceived him as this kind of unpredictable, unstable force. And so, I think that there were a lot of dangerous things being undertaken by this very powerful coalition aligned against Trump that was receiving way too little attention. And even with Trump gone, still is receiving too little attention.
Fam, you ever see The Lost Boys?
Yeah.
It's a low movie, but I remember the one scene that they thought the one vampire, they thought it was a vampire. They brought him in the house and he stood at the door. He says, well, I'm not coming in until you invite me in. And you invite him in. They gave him some garlic. He's like, oh my God, it's terrible. Like, oh, you're not dying from that stuff. They hit him with a glass of holy water. You're not burning. And oh my God, what's wrong? What not? And he says, at the end of the movie, he comes back and he turns out he was the vampire. And they're like, all those tests. He goes, you never let us into your house, boy. When you invite us in, it renders you powerless. And that's the thing. We have allowed these institutions to gain more power over our freedoms and our civil liberties. And while they're suppressing us economically, and everybody, 80% of Americans are working paycheck to paycheck, and we're struggling on top of it, they're taking more and more and more. And their group of people, their little group, those little group, and that we're not in it, that big club, they're making more money and they're taking more resources, fam. Your final thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just echo what you say. And I think, it's obvious that Trump is not the issue here. No president actually are the institutions that we need to pay attention to. And the left has begun cheering for censorship, cheering for the CIA, cheering for the FBI. And that is on purpose. That is by design. Joanne Reed was there advocating for imperialism and like a neocon. Vaush is another one that gets away with advocating for more imperialism. And they put him as a leftist. He gets platformed by Crystal and Kyle Kulinski and all these other people. I mean, it's really stupid, but that's where the left is at. Sad.
And we have to pay more attention to these institutions because they're infringing even more on our civil liberties. So it's time to do some work and look at them for a change, because those are the real people in charge, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Shanholzer, thank you so much for the Super 8 contribution. 2 things. Why don't I get email alerts for your stream start anymore? Can I get a copy of your intro music, or what's it from? Well, Johnny made it, and I will see about where we can put it up, and maybe you can get a copy. The Gone Girl, finally catching you live. Keep the fire burning. Thank you, Gone Girl. Gong.
Guys, we need more people on the Rokfin.
Okay, check it out. Yes, we do. Bethlehem Tessafe says, you got my love, pasta. Thank you, Bethlehem Tessafe. Love you, fam. And Reeve Barker, thank you for the Super 8 contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch, Reeve. Fam loves it when I do it. Embled Fate is here, or Embled Fate, fam. Came late to the stream. Surprises that puppet in Haiti got killed. Embled, you ruined part of the show. We're going to get to that after. Do you think it has to do with the Clinton Mafia? I wish that country peace. Well, I thought he was the Clinton Mafia's guy, so we'll see. Yeah. Embled Fate also says, I keep hearing threats of civil war in my second home country, Nigeria. And now this Haiti thing and Ethiopia makes me extremely worried. Someone is stalking rage and Afro countries, just like Libya. Keep it up, guys. Listen, we have to pay attention to what's going on over there right now, too, as well. These are pockets for some serious wars and a lot of death and destruction, because the central banks, they're going to want to get in there and they're going to want to do their thing. So really quickly, this is a short section, really quick, but Biden backed Juan Guaido in Venezuela. And state governments will knock on your doors if you're unvaccinated and stuff. So I love this here too as well, because you can see the report says Biden renews U.S. support for Venezuela opposition leader. Damn, I thought we were voting out fascism.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, no. Like, is anybody surprised?
In a letter to Juan Guaido on Venezuela's National Day on Monday, U.S. President Joe Biden reiterated the United States support for Venezuela's opposition leader, whom Washington has recognized as Venezuela's president. I'm the interim president, fam, of Venezuela. Anybody could be right now. We are more determined than ever to support the struggle for independence of all Venezuelans through peace and democratic transition in Venezuela, Biden wrote in his letter to Guaido. Addressing the Venezuelan opposition leader, the U.S. president said, under your leadership and with the leaders of civil society, you have helped up these ideals. You have upheld these ideals of freedom, democracy, and sovereignty. Biden sent a message to Guaido through the Venezuelan Affairs Office in neighboring Colombia. He has to do it to a Colombia. An official said on Monday, Venezuela commemorated its independence on July 1st, 1811. Isn't it funny that he's sending all these messages on Venezuelans' fucking Freedom Day? Guaido, the former president of the National Assembly, declared himself interim president in January 2019 after refusing to recognize socialist president Nicolas Maduro's victory in the 2018 election for a second round. Boycott by opposition.
Literally nobody supports Guaido. Like, he has a very small, he's nobody in Venezuela. I was just in Peru. Nobody mentions Guaido.
Yeah.
It's all about Maduro.
Yeah.
Whatever you think of Maduro is irrelevant. Whatever the United States thinks of Maduro is irrelevant. He's supported by his people, the vast majority of them. Does Venezuela have issues? Yes, because of U.S. sanctions. Mainly, these sanctions have created a disgusting situation in Venezuela, and the sanctions have caused so much death and destruction in Venezuela. And it really sucks because a lot of people don't understand the geopolitics of it. Even people in Latin America who are living it don't understand that this is the result of the U.S. and the U.S. blood. The blood of these people is on the hands of the United States and the regime. It's just so rich of them to think that they can dictate and name random people interim president. It's disgusting. I'm sure Maduro gets a lot of criticism from Venezuelans too as well, but he is the elected leader. Right.
We should stay out of their affairs. Bottom line, we should lift the sanctions. Bottom line, and the fact is that a lot of conservatives, a lot of Trump's people, they okay these moves. When he's standing up and honoring him in the freaking State of the Union and shit, it's disgusting. Like, we have to stay out of affairs. And also, once again, Venezuela's Maduro says U.S. is plotting his assassination. So Joe Biden got in there. Fam, you meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Mm-hmm. They try to whack him under Donald Trump, trying to whack him now under Joe Biden. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has once again accused the U.S. spy agency, the CIA, and the American military of plotting to assassinate him, questioning whether current President Joe Biden is aware of the move. Did Joe ratify Donald Trump's orders to lead Venezuela into a civil war and kill us? Yes or no? I asked, Maduro said during the Friday address at the military ceremony. He's even questioning, hey, do you even know what the hell is going on over here? Just kind of pointing out the fact that America, the president, is not in charge of their foreign policy. The three-letter agencies in the military-industrial complexes, fam.
Exactly.
And while we're out fighting for freedom and truth, and then Joe Biden wants to sell it to the American people, ladies and gentlemen, I'm supporting Guaido because of freedom. Come on, man. He wants to fucking go door to door and make sure that you get your vaccines. This is some 1984 shit. Here's Jen Psaki talking about it.
In more healthcare settings and respond to hotspots. The president will outline 5 areas his team is focused on to get more Americans vaccinated. 1, targeted community by community door-to-door outreach to get remaining Americans vaccinated by ensuring they have the information they need on how both safe and accessible the vaccine is. 2, a renewed emphasis on getting the vaccines to more primary care doctors and physicians, something that we've seen.
So there it is. We're going to knock door to door. And the next video is just Joe Biden. To make sure you know it wasn't just a slippage by Psaki saying this. Biden even solidified these words too as well. This is creepy shit right now too as well. I mean, even with all the reports coming back that this vaccine has a lot of issues, they're still pushing it and not putting it. And they're still demonetizing people and taking people's videos down for other alternatives of medicine that are cheaper. Take a look at Biden.
Special focus on 5 ways to make gains in getting those of you who are unvaccinated vaccinated. Because here's the deal. We are continuing to wind down the mass vaccination sites that did so much in the spring to rapidly vaccinate those eager to get their first shot and their second shot, for that matter, if they needed a second. Now we need to go to community by community, neighborhood by neighborhood, and oftentimes door to door, literally knocking on doors, to get help to the remaining people protected from the virus.
I mean, that's ridiculous, dude. I mean, that's very fascistic. It's a personal choice. You shouldn't, like, what is the government doing? Like, the government is overstepping. This is what we're talking about here. Like, while you're worried about the orange man that's completely out of office still, and you're worried only about Republicans, this is what the authoritarian Democratic government of Joe Biden, and of course ruled by these agencies, is pushing.
I went to go pick up a pizza yesterday from my place, and the dude on the phone says, do me a favor, if you're not vaccinated, make sure you have your mask on, and yeah, I'll be ready in 25 minutes. I said, really? I said, do I have to bring my vaccination papers? He goes, no. But, I'm saying, it's like the mentality they're telling people.
Yeah.
And they're really buying this shit. And
did you wear your mask?
No, fuck no.
Yeah. Like,
fuck no.
Sorry.
Like, you ain't getting that shit anymore. But what I did do is I said, Kevin, cool kid. I said, take a look. And I let him click onto our link tree. I said, I want you to watch my show. Because the guy seems like an open-minded, really cool person. But yet, several times I've been there and I've heard him speak, that he's been very connected to the mainstream media. Like you hear those talking points, and it's like a bell ringing.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, let's talk a little bit more about this. Let's have a nuanced conversation about this. And one last video I want to say, just go ahead, if you haven't had a chance, they said they're going to knock on your door. Check out Jason Burmis's video about him saying, if they come and knock on my door asking about the vaccine, there's a couple people who've been out there. It's hysterical. I'm going to greet them accordingly. How are you going to greet them, ladies and gentlemen, if they come knocking on your door?
That's ridiculous.
We're going to go into the next section, then we'll read some super chats after this section. Since it was a short section, I want to keep one simple and short, fam, since I had a long section.
Yeah. So
this is important.
The U.S.-backed Haitian president has been assassinated, you guys. This morning, he was the dictator that was backed by the United States government. If you recall, a lot of people in Haiti were protesting. It's been a really difficult situation for them. His name was Jovenal Moise was killed, and his wife was also shot during the armed attack in the early hours of today at their residence in Port-au-Prince. This is, of course, was confirmed by the country's acting prime minister, Claude Joseph. And Joseph said the attack occurred around 1 a.m. and some of the unidentified assailants spoke Spanish. The head of state, the statement said, was fatally injured. The first lady was wounded and is being treated. The assailants claim to be agents of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, according to videos taken by people in the area of the president's home. Moise, 53, lives in Perlin, a neighborhood just above the hills in the capital. They also talked about how there was an American accent heard yelling in English over a megaphone, DEA operation, everybody stand down, DEA operation, everybody back up and stand down. But later on, other sources told the Miami Herald that the assailants, one of whom spoke in English with an American accent, were not with the DEA, that these were mercenaries, high-ranking Haitian government official said. So there's a couple things being said. Most of the locals have been saying that it was mercenaries. Now, here's a video by this woman who is pretty good on Haiti. She's been talking a lot about what's going on. She's there in the area. And she said, here are the mercenaries that assassinated the tyrant of Haiti. They were Spanish speaking. Who hired them? Who was his security? Clearly, he was taken out by the same entities, local bourgeoisie mafia or foreign imperialists that imposed him on the people. So let's take a look at this video and just warning.
Those weren't fireworks, were they, fam?
No. In the video, if you hear it closely, it sounds like they're speaking something like Spanish or something close. He says something like "dame otro" or "give me another one" would be the translation. It's hard to hear, but that's what it sounds like. So she also said a puppet tyrant who inflicted unmitigated pain on his citizens on behalf of foreign imperialists and the local bourgeoisie mafia is dead. I shed no tears. It is he who allowed the perpetual violation of Haiti's sovereignty by hiring foreign mercenaries to kill citizens. So again, yes, he hired foreign mercenaries to kill citizens. We can see in the pictures, warning, by the way, these pictures are very graphic. And so that a lot of people, of course, are like, okay, this is bad, but also they hated him. So
yeah, but I mean, here's the question now: is it like his bosses that are pissed off, like, all right, we're done with you, we have no use for you, let's get rid of you, get a new tyrant in, or is it the people fighting back? Is it another? I mean,
there's elections coming up right now.
Yeah,
and this guy Jovenel was going to change the constitution. So let's watch this video by Telesur because it talks a little bit about that.
Okay.
So I'll get your thoughts on that. But what it looks like to me is that there was a assassination because a new election could potentially elect somebody that would actually be elected by the people. And so they certain forces didn't want that to happen and eliminated him. So now somebody else will take power and it'll be more easily manipulated. It seems like there is a sort of power play here that's happening because he wasn't Jovenel was not popular with Haitians at all, but he was backed initially by the US government, though increasingly criticized in recent times because they had to at some point because of the crimes he was committing. So it seems to me that there's an attempt to control who the next party power player in Haiti is through this coup or this assassination. Yeah. That's what it seems like.
It's the country's in turmoil. It's in chaos. And a lot has to do with what the Clinton initiatives did in over there, stealing money that was supposed to go into the infrastructure of that country, giving it to fugazi contracts that went into contractors' pockets, leaving the Haitian people in dire straits, leaving them as poor as can be. I mean, it's disgusting because it's right on our doorstep over here. And yet we've done nothing but make sure that there's chaos in that country. And I really hope we can get it straight. I'm looking for Wyclef Jean. I remember he wanted to run a long time ago. I wish he'd get back into the mix or something. A populist mentality guy, a guy who can speak, or a woman or a person who can speak that would get a lot of eyes and attention over there. So the world will keep their eyes on Haiti to make sure that these people can determine their own sovereignty, can determine their own way forward, and to make sure that the resources aren't raped from them and try to build this country, this beautiful country that once was. So it's a shame right now because I don't even know what the hell is going on, fam. I don't know who's what and what's going on. All I know is that the people in Haiti are suffering more than ever. And I wish Americans would pay more attention to the injustices that our country puts upon the Haitian people.
And The Hill released an article that you guys can read just in. Haiti urges UN Security Council to hold meeting, and they're going to launch an investigation into the assassination. So the UN is now going to do their investigating. We'll see how that goes. Is that a video?
Is that a video there?
Yeah, that's Biden's comment on it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You want to hear Biden's comment or no?
Yes. Let's go ahead and hear.
Can you even find Haiti on a map?
Biden's comment on it now, and then we'll go into what Blinken said, and then we're gonna watch how Biden referred to Haiti before.
What's your reaction, Mr. President, to the Haitian president being assassinated?
We need a lot more information, but it's very worrisome about the state of
Does
Haiti.
the U.S. have a role in seeking justice?
There you go. That's your
a
president.
Blanket statement. Very worrisome, fam. That's it. That's all you got. Okay.
So, the House Foreign Affairs Committee said that Chair Gregory makes the situation in Haiti continues to deteriorate as crime, corruption, and the pandemic and political gridlock put further strain on civil society. Congress and the Biden administration must continue to pressure President Moise to listen to the Haitian people. And this was from June 29th. So it seems like to me that there is something with the United States, right? That there's something, because it's great. Since when has President Biden been with the American people? Since with the Haitian people.
Yeah.
Since when has Biden or any of the Democratic any of the U.S. establishment ever cared about Haiti, right? And all of a sudden, Haitians, what were they doing? They were protesting. They were going in the streets. It seems like they were ready to remove somebody. Now, this kind of throws that out. It kind of puts them in a situation where somebody else has to take power immediately. So to me, especially with elections coming up, so to me, this is very telling. The only other thing I wanted to point out is what Biden said. This is what I mean. How Biden referred to Haiti back in the day.
If Haiti, a god-awful thing to say, if Haiti just quietly sunk into the Caribbean or rose up 300 feet, it wouldn't matter a whole lot in terms of our interest.
Yeah, that's...
Sam, you're taking that out of context. Joe Biden's a decent man.
Yeah, right. So there you go, guys. That's so far what we have. The more we find out, we'll be monitoring. We'd love to have somebody on to talk about Haiti as well.
Yeah, well, we'll
take a look and see who's available.
I got some friends in Little Haiti down in South Florida, so we'll see. I'll reach out. I'll call one of my closest friends.
Well, somebody on the ground would be great.
I have a friend who goes back and forth to Port-au-Prince. One of my good friends. His name is Phil Duval Saint. We call him the Haitian Sensation. And he's one of our best friends, one of our closest friends, my crew back in Florida. Okay, that's Embled Fate. That one we got. We have another one. Guys, Ben Smith said, Biden didn't write that. Which one? Biden didn't write any of his damn speeches, Ben Smith. Thank you so much, Benny. Ben Smith, hope you're there. Hey, Rem, hey, Fiorella, you didn't happen to watch the...
No, not yet.
Okay.
Agronomist? No, not
Last
yet.
night. Did you?
No.
You have found it ironic because of its relation to the news about Haiti today. That's crazy. Embled Fate, thank you so much. And by the way, that was Arem. Arem, thank you so much. Embled Fate, still joining on in. 70 people almost over here. Get on over to Rokfin, Rokfin. Embled Fate says Vin Diesel memes blowing up. You know what that means? Join the family, fam. Subscribe to the Convo Couch. Nothing is stronger than family.
Thank you, Emblem Fate.
Embled Fate. Hey, Rem. In The Guardian, Haitian President Jovenel Moïse assassinated. The attack happened barely 24 hours after Moïse had named a new prime minister, Ariel Henry, to take charge as head of the government and prepare the country for presidential elections in the next 2 months.
Exactly. So that is extremely suspect, in my opinion.
Sorry, 1 second. I'll get you over there. Yes.
Okay, so this next section is extremely important. It's also very short. I just wanted to really draw attention to it because Julian Assange is in even greater danger now because the U.S. has been granted permission to appeal the UK decision by Judge Vanessa Brewster to not extradite Assange. Remember that even though the judge, Vanessa Brewster, agreed with the entire line of accusations against Assange. She chose not to extradite him because of the condition in U.S. prisons and how he would likely not survive.
Risk,
and so, but now the UK has granted the United States permission to pretty much turn that over. And so WikiLeaks released this, and the new revelations concerning the DOJ's lead witness confirmed that what we all knew, that the case against Julian has been built on lies. Stella Morris said this. Now, let's watch the video that Stella Morris gave regarding the latest on Julian, because she recently was able to actually see him.
Good afternoon. The High Court delivered its decision that it will allow limited permission for the U.S. government to appeal January's decision to block Julian's extradition. That means that he's still at risk of extradition, where he faces a 175-year prison sentence, and according to the magistrate, is certain to lose his life if he's extradited. The U.S. government should have accepted the magistrate's court's decision. Instead, it keeps this case going. The case is itself falling apart. The lead witness of the U.S. Department of Justice now admits that he lied in exchange for immunity from U.S. prosecutors. The lawyers of Julian were spied on. Their offices were broken into. Even our 6-month-old baby was targeted while he was in the embassy. And now the High Court has limited the grounds on which they are allowed to appeal. So the case is falling apart. Merrick Garland has egg on his face because of the decision to use a witness that perjured himself in order to try to imprison Julian and keep him imprisoned. And so I'm appealing to the Biden administration to do the right thing. This appeal was taken 2 days before the Trump administration left office. And if the Biden administration is serious about respecting the rule of law, the First Amendment, and of defending global press freedom, the only thing it can do is drop this case. This case is the most vicious attack on global press freedom in history. The U.S. government is accusing a foreign journalist, a foreign publisher who was outside the United States, for publishing true information that incriminated the U.S. military of committing war crimes. Julian is a freedom fighter. He fights for freedom from torture, freedom from illegal wars, freedom from surveillance and manipulation. And that is what the U.S. government is criminalizing. So there's no way to stand up for the First Amendment and defend democracy at the same time as you're prosecuting and imprisoning Julian Assange. Many people don't know this, but the US government is allowed to appeal and have its costs paid by the UK taxpayer. Julian, on the other hand, has to fund his defense himself, even though he won in January, and the US government has decided to appeal that decision. Julian has to pay for his legal costs, whereas the US government is subsidized by the UK taxpayer. Every aspect of this case is profoundly unjust. Julian is being punished for doing his job as a journalist.
Yeah, 2 days before the Trump administration left office, they have filed for the appeal. So all you patriots out there who says that Donald Trump is the real deal, he's the anti-establishment, oh shit, your thoughts, fam?
Yeah, no, I mean, everything she said is so important for people to hear. I mean, this is his partner as well. He has kids. He's not in great health. 175 years for being a journalist. It's disgusting. The United States, once again, is trying to have international jurisdiction over the press, just like they try to have international jurisdiction over who becomes president or who leads what country. International jurisdiction over resources. The United States empire is the bad guy here. And if they prosecute Julian Assange, we will once again see an even worsening. Imagine all of the things that are happening right now under this administration. Imagine all of that tenfold or hundredfold if Julian Assange is extradited and convicted, because believe me, we will not be able to see this as a public trial. It will be disastrous for him. And this is why so many groups have been actually, putting pressure on the Biden administration to do something different. Right. And, we just got done with the events. His brother and his father, Gabriel and John Shipton, were here, did a whole tour. There's a reason for that. It's not just, like just making this guy a saint or anything like that. It's about what it represents for press freedoms, for censorship, for the ability to have freedom. And of course, America just gets done celebrating 4th of July. And this is what happens. This is why I wasn't celebrating. This is why we were calling it Farce of July, because it is a fucking farce that a journalist is in jail for exposing the war crimes that we all need to know about. The reason many of us are here is because we have been just completely illuminated and enlightened by WikiLeaks and what it revealed, everything it revealed about the 2016 elections to even before that, and the cables. And so it's just crazy to me that the United States is allowed to be a bully continuously, and not enough people are talking about it, or they're focused on smearing Assange with the same tired old smears.
The suppression of speech and the suppression of freedoms of the press didn't end with Julian Assange. It only just began, because if you can jail Julian, who's not even an American citizen, who's done all this, all he did was tell the truth and expose stuff and publish stuff. If you can jail him unlawfully, even when you have your main witness,
he's Australian, dude.
Your main witness is now, and we were so fortunate to catch, John and Gabriel Shipton on their tour right when this happened. And he even explained he turned turtle, the main witness they had, the FBI had, and once again, this is disgusting. This guy was a pedophile, right? Yeah. He had charges for sexual misconduct on minors. He was allowed to continue to do this action because the FBI protected him as long as he said the words he wanted, the FBI wanted him to say. As long as he spoke the language and the lies to prop up this case in the people's eyes. Well, now that main witness has recanted his whole story, has retracted his testimony. Yep. It's time, enough is enough to let this man go, right? You know what I'm saying? Like that. And that's why we say that Donald Trump wasn't the real deal.
Just one other thing about the pressure building to release him. About a group of doctors representing about 250 medical professionals from 35 countries wrote to Joe Biden on Wednesday, urging him to drop the charges on Julian Assange. Again, I don't believe the Biden administration is in control of this case. This is about the national security state and their desire to make an example out of Julian Assange. If there was mass protests in the streets, I think things would be different. Power, it concedes nothing without demand, right? So that's what people have to continue doing. Direct actions, support action for Assange, support all these groups that have been highlighting this. All these people, Andrew, Misty, Slow News Day, Steve, all these people that have consistently been doing the work for Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, of course. So
action for Assange. That's our fams. Thank you so much for the work you do. It's been amazing collaborating with you. I feel honored just to be a part of the whole situation, working with these guys, because they've been on it since the get-go. The way they open up their shows, they give you the hardcore facts, the numbers, how long Julian's been incarcerated for, how long he's been in suffering, all the details you need to know. Go check out Action for Assange.
So before we get to the last topic, which I'm so excited to talk about, I have been waiting, fam. I've been like salivating to talk about this last one.
Yeah, well, because we were there.
We were there.
Okay, we read the Ending Guardian. Let me make sure. Sorry, guys, 1 second. I believe we're up.
Okay.
We're up on the super race. But listen, guys, we have 78 people watching on Rokfin. We have almost 400 on YouTube with censorship. with being out of the algorithm. You guys
you
are
don't get our
amazing.
emails or notifications.
Nothing. The bells, all that shit is canceled on us. So I am so happy that you're all joining in today. Get over to that Rokfin, ROKFIN. Help us out. We have 70 thumbs up, only one troll thumb down. Thank you for the troll. You're even loved, and your voice is appreciated on the couch.
Free speech.
Let's go.
Okay.
Fam.
So let's dismantle the bullshit about January 6th, because the U.S. is still exaggerating about January 6th. Like, they are still hyper focused on this, right? Mm-hmm. First of all, Facebook is banning anybody that is charged on that was charged on 1/6, not convicted, charged. So even if you're not convicted, now you are banned. This is with regard to the riot at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, and they're also fact checking claims that the riot was staged, which, I mean, staged might be a broad bad term, but really, like they let them in. So we'll talk about that in a minute. I wanted to read Sandy Bacombe tweet. I don't really know who this person is. I simply agree with their tweet. Because DC is not a state, the only person who can call up the National Guard is the president. On January 6th, over 17 requests were denied. Please, would an actual journalist report on this? Trump fired all of the Department of Defense brass on November 9th. Chris Miller installed to stonewall the National Guard. If we recall, we went through all of the FBI, the talking about the whole hearing where they were talking about how they ignored a lot of the calls by the mayor to like that was, hey, we might have a thing here. All of that was ignored. Mm-hmm. We have the most powerful military in the world. We are a police state. We have more people in jail. We literally, we had police surrounding us for Force the Vote and for Julian Assange a day or two before. Yeah. And where were all those police? Why didn't they stop this? They had all the information, all of this. They didn't want to stop it. Yeah. And it is very clear that they needed a reason to continue to push this fascistic authoritarian just legislation that the Biden administration is now pushing under the guise of countering domestic terrorism. And I'm not going to get sick of talking about this, because we saw how the media framed everything in real time.
Yep. Go ahead. I ditto. I mean, there's nothing really. There were more people at the Force the Vote, more police at the Force the Vote fucking protest than there were almost in January 6th. And that's no lie. So, they can get out there in a hurry. We saw the zip ties. We saw everything. They're ready to arrest us and get us out of there. And we had 50 people. Yet there's hundreds of thousands of people there, and you don't amp up. You can just snap your finger and have everybody there if you need to be. It's very, very fishy, everything that went on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Something is going on, fam. Something is going on. Here's your good friend. What do we got?
All right. So, I'm not trying to be petty or to bring this up because I don't like Jordan. I am trying to bring this up because this whole thing that we just talked about in the first segment, right? This whole neo-progressive attempt to really push the exaggeration that this was an insurrection, the exaggeration that all this trauma happened. Now, I'm not going to question particular journalists who were scared, because we were kind of like, oh, this might get hairy. We didn't we didn't let Johnny go all the way up there because
he wanted
to. Yeah. But because we were like, I was afraid of the cops having something more than anything, because we've dealt with it in Portland. We've dealt with it in Seattle. We've dealt with it in LA. We have seen what the police do. And I thought they were just going to have the National Guard come in and start there's going to be I thought there was going to be a trampling of sorts. That's what I was afraid of, because there's so many people in general. Yeah. But at the Capitol entrance, that's where, some of these people Jonathan from New York was reporting, right? John Farina. Yeah. And I value that bravery of going up there and reporting that. I'm not going to question how traumatic he felt or how he felt. I am saying as a whole, the event and the way AOC and all of Congress and all of these people watching these selected clips, right, from mainstream media, how they were clutching their pearls at how this event was just an insult to our institutional of democracy and a process and a democratic process happening. That is what I'm attacking. I'm not attacking people's personal trauma. I'm attacking the whole thing was an exaggeration, manipulated and weaponized to push fascistic takeovers and fascistic like censorship and all of these like crackdowns of surveillance on us. And that is what I'm attacking.
And let me just give a little perspective on what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. I was 10 times worried, and I wasn't even worried that much, but I was 10 times worried in Portland than I ever was at the Capitol building. In the Capitol building, it was just so, it was so eye-opening to see a lot of these Trumpers who were so confused about the police firing at them, hitting them with tear gas. You know what I'm saying? And we've been in the thick of things. You guys went to Seattle too as well. But I'm going to tell you this right now. At no time did I really ever like think this was like, it could get bad and stuff like that. But this wasn't something like a war zone.
Yeah.
This wasn't something, it wasn't as bad as Portland when they were up in the streets. And
because the cops were shooting at protesters.
Yeah.
Like with weapons of war.
Yeah.
That was scary. That was scary.
Yeah.
That was traumatizing. Being in a car with like hardcore weapons pointed at you at gunpoint, smashing windows. That was scary.
Portland was 10 times worse than what we experienced at the Capitol.
By the people in power, by the agencies, by the police, by the what was it? They sent the feds, like they sent the actual feds to Portland. That was Trump doing that. That was, on top of the governor of Portland also sending their own police. Like Donald Trump did that. I'm not denying that was an authoritarian. I'm saying it was. I'm saying that was scarier than this. So this is what Jordan said, because Glenn Greenwald said, wonder what would happen to them, because this is regarding the Vice article, which we're going to go over. But he said, wonder what would happen to them if they had to report from war zones or stand down authoritarian governments trying to imprison them. Also wonder if they ever take a few seconds to compare their trauma to Julian Assange's, because this is regarding, the Vice report. Who survived the Capitol riots or that journalists who survived the Capitol riots are still struggling, right? And I'm gonna address that as well. But this is where Jordan comes in. He said, disagree with Glenn Greenwald and others on this minimizing PTSD and continued issues journalists who covered 1-6 on the ground are having. John Farina, who shot historic footage for Status Quo that was picked up everywhere, nearly broke his ribs in a stampede of Trump supporters as they barreled into him while trying to steal police shields and crushed a cop's head into the door. John, who has covered dangerous Proud Boys and white supremacist rallies as well, has also had lingering PTSD from 1-6, and I've spoken with him about a while. We were on the road trip, on the road reporting on other things. With all due respect to Glenn, you were not there, neither was I, but you don't have to be a journalist literally reporting in a war zone to be affected physically or mentally in an extremely volatile story on the ground. You don't. We were affected like that in Portland. This armchair tweeting, trying to minimize lingering physical and mental effects reporters or photojournalists have is not constructive and is super condescending. For me personally, I don't discuss it much, but I have lingering mental health issues from what I reported / saw at Standing Rock. And then he said, 75% of the time I agree with Glenn's criticism of the mainstream media as elitist stenographers for the powerful, but on this, he is just wrong. He said, I think he responded to him right here. I'm just going to read that part really quickly. Yeah. Glenn said, I also object to the exaggeration of what 1-6 was, just as I spent a decade or more objecting to the exaggeration of the threat of Islamic extremism. The endless heaving and crying over the insurrection is being used to fuel the new war on terror. Yep. It needs to be in perspective. 100%. That's what, this is what my issue is with people like Jordan and other progressives. They go right to the emotion. Like, you are dismissing trauma. No, that was his independent experience. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the exaggeration of a lot of these mainstream media journalists who weren't even there, who stole Jordan's footage and stole my footage, our footage, because they didn't get it, and they picked and chose what footage to use for their fucking narrative.
Yeah.
And that is what we're criticizing here. And their narrative has been used to push this whole new war on domestic terror. And now all of us are domestic terrorists or domestic violent extremists, DVEs.
And Johnny Farina also responded back over there too as well. And let me just say this much, that Johnny Farina got probably the hairiest footage that was out there. That's why I take my hat off to him. He was in the real thick of this one part where police were going back and forth with supporters, spraying stuff, trying to grab the shields. But if you look at our footage, right, and go take a look at it, there was some stuff going on, but it was not that hairy. It was a lot of people waving flags and hitting cowbells and yelling and hitting the horns and saying, all right, they're voting for stuff now in the chambers, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure they hear us and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it really, to tell you the truth, what Johnny caught, was a small portion of what was really going on out there. Just look at his footage, look at our footage, which is a little bit outside, and don't get me wrong too, as well. They're all profiting off their footage, off Status Quo's footage, off of our footage, and they're not giving any of the independent media their due themselves. So they've stole our footage, for crying out loud. But so you have to keep things in perspective, that even though Johnny Farina did catch some really hairy stuff, I would say he caught some of the most hairiest stuff, fam, if not the most hairiest part.
Absolutely. But it was tiny compared to everything that was going on.
Yeah.
So I responded by saying I disagree with Jordan, and this is from the start, because Jordan has had this was an insurrection.
There you go.
This was a whole coup from the start. I said he pro-clutched this whole event without being there. Police allowed people in. Why do people leave that out?
Yeah.
Police allowed people in when days prior they'd surrounded activists for Assange and forced to vote. The event was absolutely not an insurrection or coup or anything traumatic like Congress and mainstream media claim. Like the whole event as a whole, like his personal experience might have been. And again, nobody is trying to dismiss that, but at the same time, a lot of these journalists that were interviewed by Vice weren't even freaking what are they talking about? That they were like, it's ridiculous. I was there reporting on the election fraud accusations for which Sheridan claimed we should be deplatformed and that we helped stoke what happened at the Capitol. Our video too was used without consent by the DOJ to spin a false narrative regarding Brian Sicknick. We've gone over this many times. There's the link to the Washington Post. You can see our little thing there, our little logo. And they said that, these two men were arrested for the bear mace, but turned out it wasn't the bear mace. It turned out it wasn't the fire extinguisher. It turned out none of these things were true. They haven't had to retract any of it. Joe Biden is still continuing to use that as if it were fact when it's completely not.
Yeah.
And I said at this point, it's lunacy to continue comparing this event to anything resembling a coup or warfare. I'd love to see some of the bought-off mainstream media journalists and Congress people deal with the actual trauma the working class and the people we sanction and torment with bombs deal with daily.
Hold on a second. Oz, do you got the thread up real quick? We want to make sure they saw it. We had it before. Did they see the Washington Post thing? Just want to make sure if you click on Fee's thread.
Yeah, we're trying to scroll through this, remember?
Yeah. He had it up before when we were not. We were kind of going through the other part of it.
Yeah, it was hard to see.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Let's find Fee's thread real quick. And
it should be the link on the slide you're in. So is
that it?
There it is.
Yeah.
All right.
I said, not to mention the most vital fact, and this is the most vital fact, is that the U.S. intelligence community and the Biden administration have weaponized the fear-mongering to push for authoritarian censorship and legislation, naming practically anyone a DVE under the guise of domestic terror. Like that is the issue. Like, no, and again, I'm not going to go through this, but I'm just saying, I don't deny that things didn't get scary, but the whole event was not what it's made out to be. And this whole weaponizing trauma, once again, that the left tends to do is really disingenuous to really to really say, because we were there and we weren't just trying to get, Trump supporters being crazy, because that we don't spin that. We're trying to get the whole thing, the whole picture of why these people were here. Not just, they're Trump supporters, let's mock them. Why are you here? Why did you think the election was rigged? What do you feel? What's going on here? That's what we were doing, and we couldn't stream it live because there was no signal. It was hard to get signal for everybody to get signal.
Can do their job. And I just want to say too, as well, the fact that Joe Biden's using this The establishment is also using it to create policies that infringe more on our civil liberties, that allow banks to give out personal information when they shouldn't be able to. I mean, that's the way they're catching a lot of people that were there on January 6th. They're talking to their banks, finding out they use the ATM around the corner, and then zapping them. And a lot of these people are being detained now unlawfully. So it is very scary, and they are weaponizing this and not downplaying anybody's trauma too as well. And like I said, Johnny Farina was caught in the thick of things and stuff like that. And that's something that's really scary. I know when I was in those moments, when we were in Portland and the Bernie van got smashed, I was scared shitless. I ran out of that van and I almost wet my pants because we knew there was cops pointing guns at us and we're screaming with press helmets on. Press, press, press. I thought I was going to get lit up like a Christmas tree. But the fact is that we've also been to a lot of other actions, a lot of other protests. And I don't think this was anything above the norm that was so awful that the way the establishment is making it look out to be, they're using it for their benefit so they can weaponize it to create more policy. And we have to call it what it is. We've talked to over 50 people out there. The majority of the people, like we said, we met aunts, uncles, grandpas, newborn babies and stuff like that. They were concerned about the elections. They were learning and educating themselves about the elections. We were educating them about the elections. So that's what the majority of the people were there, because they thought the elections were rigged and they were faked. And there was plenty of evidence, and stop saying there's no evidence. There was plenty of evidence out there to provide the fact that these elections were fake. And that's what Donald Trump talked about.
Not fake, but they were
fraud, or
they were not.
Question.
At the very least, were under question.
My bad. They should be questioned and audited properly. And like we said, Donald Trump's speech at the Ellipse was all about the elections and pointing out the evidence in which he had and he thought the elections were wrong. Yeah. That is not,
whether you like him or not, whether you think he's a showman, which I do. I think he was just showing off. Regardless, if people don't trust in the system, they're going to question it, and they have every right to question it. I don't have to agree with it. I could think it's bullshit. It doesn't matter. The point is they have the right to do it. And when you come at things from this perspective, and this is further even than Glenn's going, because we understand elections, right? We know where this is coming from. We understand that people felt completely gaslighted, completely just smeared, like they didn't matter. And so that's why you had all those people there to show, hey, no, we matter. We're all these people. And not every single one of those people was a white supremacist. And the vast majority were not. And this isn't me defending the ideology. This is me just telling you what happened and being, of course, right. Months later, when you're seeing all this legislation pushed by the Biden administration, we called it in January. You can find my tweets. We called it in January that this was going to happen. Yeah. We said it from the start. And you have to notice too is what clips they used to promote what like the fear versus what was actually happening. They didn't use any clips where you saw young people, elderly people, families. They didn't use those clips where they saw people of color. Like they used the specific clips to promote fear. The very small group of people that was trying to enter the Capitol, they used those clips to promote it. They didn't talk about everybody else. And that is disingenuous reporting. And that is not what really happened. And we were there. Yeah. Jason Burmas was there. Yeah. Steve Poikonen was there. None of us, Andrew was there. None of us are Trump supporters. None of us, not a single one of us.
And here's the thing too, is very important. We talked to a lot of people. Yeah, we couldn't live stream it, and we stopped the live stream at one point, and we just started filming because we realized that we were getting cut off, and we weren't getting the message there. But when we talked to people, you know what I'm saying? That's why we can tell you clearly what we're reporting on was the fact that it wasn't a bunch of white supremacists and whatnot. In fact, where we were at one point in front of the stairs, there was a man of color who was walking around with dreads in the eyes, and he was asking people, you need water? Do you need aid? Do you need anything? Whatnot. And he was walking through. He wasn't getting hassled. People were like, no, we're fine. We were talking to people and that. So the narrative that they're putting forth, and they keep showing that, what do you call it? The guillotine or the noose and stuff like that to make it look like there's a bunch of white supremacists ready to hang people. That's just bullshit. We've seen a guillotine in front of Jeff Bezos' house put by a bunch of professors.
The left constantly talks about fucking guillotines. Why are you hypocrites? The left talks about guillotining a bunch of people, gulags, a bunch of people. Why are you a hypocrite? Like it's a political thing. It's an effigy. Why? Like just because you don't like them doesn't mean that it's anything more. Yeah. Like and that's what people cannot. It goes back to the whole current affairs versus Glenn Greenwald thing. It's like they cannot separate their emotions of hating Trump and hating the right from understanding what logically happened. And I'm just so sick and tired of it because it's like they're like you're being a right winger. Yeah. No, dude, I'm telling you the truth. It might not fit my narrative or your narrative, but that's the fucking truth. You have to tell the truth, period. End of story.
And Fiorella, I just want to point out that the people we talked to after the situation, when we were going to the airport, when we were just in the restaurants and stuff, they were disgusted by what happened.
They were.
The Trump people was like, that's not us. We're the party of law and order. We're the party of law and order. And they were disgusted what happened. The majority of the people, they're like, that's not what we're all about. And in fact, I talked to a friend and they were even pointing out the fact that when they marched down from the ellipse to the Capitol, there was no violence, nothing happened. And they were really proud about that they were able to march peacefully from the ellipse down to the Capitol. But by the time they got to the Capitol, shit had already broke loose. That's the whole, that's another entity that people don't talk about.
And no group is a monolith. Again, like no group is a monolith. It's very, very hard to have a monolithic group. And like, and that's just, it's just not what happened, dude. It'd be so easy for us to be like, it was an insurrection. I'm so appalled. Let me clutch my pearls. It would be so fucking easy. We wouldn't be smeared all the time, but that's not the fucking truth. And people who aren't telling you the truth aren't telling you the whole story, because anybody could fucking take a clip and make it look like, oh my God, this was the whole thing. That's not what it was. And again, we've talked about this from the beginning. And the most important thing to get out of this is the legislation. And again, this is the Vice News thing. That reporters who survived the deadly Capitol riot. If you go, Oz, I guess I had skipped it. If you go to the tweets, 48, and if you click on the first Twitter Fiorella thread, if you click on that one,
is it the second tweet there?
This one
one right below that, Oz.
I just want to real quickly show that they failed. They didn't reach out to us.
You got it there. It's the Vice News one, Oz.
It's the Vice News one
at the top of the page. You can see the tweet in the box.
Is that it?
No. Go back to what you just had. Go back one page what you just had.
Okay.
Now put that on the top there. That's it right there. You can see it right there. That Vice News. There you go. Put that up.
All right.
Okay.
There you go.
So I just wanted to know that they didn't reach out to us. They didn't interview us. We were there. Our footage is one of the, besides the one that John Fiorina shot that was used widely. Our footage was also used widely to put this whole narrative, and we weren't invited to talk about what our trauma, because we didn't have a trauma from being there. We were more just disgusted at how we were seeing how it was portrayed from so differently from what we actually experienced. And that would have been doing actual journalism from Vice News to ask everybody, even those people who don't align with your narrative, hey, how did you guys experience it? They could have reached out to us. They didn't reach out to any of us.
We were in the thick of things, right? They used our video for taking these two guys and putting a framing on them of that they were the ones who killed Officer Sitnik. We got that footage. So many outlets used it. We were right there. Nobody asked us how we're doing and stuff. Oh, they want to point out the fact that all these outlets robbed us, used our shit without our permission, that nobody's contacted us, but that's okay. But still, go to the people who are clutching their fucking pearls, who probably covered it from behind a desk and didn't even go there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And just like the AOC and Congress's dramatics, that I will call out as dramatics, because half of them weren't even there. And she was in a different room. I mean, this whole thing, again, that has been a complete and total exaggeration, 100%. And I'm sick and tired of it. And the last thing I want to point out on this is the consequences of this, guys. Jordan mentioned the water protectors. He mentioned the what he was doing back then. Well, here we go. Jessica Resnick, an immensely strong and courageous water protector, was sentenced on Wednesday to 8 years in federal prison for her actions to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Go down a little bit, Oz, so we can show that right above this shirt, what it says.
And it says, you can jail the resistor, but not the resistance. So this is it's fine. This is the woman. If you scroll down a little bit, she said, I am saddened to be preparing for prison. My spirit remains strong. However, as I feel held in love, support, and prayer by so many near and far. Regardless of my sentence, I am hopeful that movements to protect the water live on in the struggle against Line 3 and MVP. So there you go. There she is.
Yeah.
And then the judge sided with the federal prosecutors and applied a domestic terrorism enhancement to Jessica's case, saying it was necessary to discourage others from taking similar actions. The enhancement increases Jessica's sentence, but also has far-reaching implications for broader social justice movement. This use of this enhancement interprets nonviolent actions that challenge corporate profit as acts of terror against the government. One of Jessica's attorneys, Bill Quigley, stated the community of resistance will no doubt carry on, and history will judge if Jessica Resnicek is a criminal or a prophet. Many of us are betting she's a prophet. So you guys can read that in the article below. That's there. And
it's a water protector, fam.
Yeah. So guys, when you make statements that, say, oh, you like, this is an insurrection, this is a threat to our democracy, blah, 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 blah. You are playing into the hands of the state agencies, the national security apparatus, the police state we live in, this surveillance state. And you're allowing them to manipulate you through your emotions to hurt the very people you say you are there to protect. You say you're there to protect the water protectors and you were marching at DAPL, but simultaneously you're over here calling this an insurrection and a coup, which it was not. And and this is a result. We have water protectors getting 8 years in jail for protesting a fucking pipeline using the DVE.
The domestic violent extremist tag right there. They're gonna come for you too as well. So just don't think this is the problem with playing team sports, right? You know what I'm saying? And the libertarian mindset, this is where it kind of really works, where you have to just talk about civil liberties across the board. Civil liberties across the board. You can't deny that, the fact is that they're gonna come after you just the way they're going to come after them. If you play team sports and you say it's okay for them to go after these people, say it's an insurrection, it's okay to classify somebody as a domestic terrorist, well, they're going to do it to you. They're going to do it to any dissenting voice out there. And 8 years for a water protector for this woman, that's insane, ladies and gentlemen.
That is injustice.
You have to be even Steven across the board, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I want to hear a lot of the people who are on the right and complaining about censorship also complain about this, because this is not okay. Just because you don't like her ideology, it goes the same for the fucking right. They do the same shit. They play team sports. And I'm sick and tired of that shit. Oh, yeah, DeSantis is the number one hypocrite.
Yeah, because he's out there and he makes these laws that you're like, holy shit, you're going to go after big tech and they're going to fine them for censoring people unlawfully. This is amazing and stuff. But then he puts this
protest
bill where, if you tear down a statue during this protest, which could be deemed a riot,
not even that,
twice the sentence and whatnot. They did the same thing. They did the same thing over here. They're going to do to the people they're detaining right now on January 6th, unlawfully right now, because the state doesn't care who it is. They don't care what ism you follow, the predator class.
It literally says
jail you all.
Pro-abortion or anti-abortion. It doesn't matter. Socialist, right-winger, libertarian, boogaloo boy. It doesn't fucking matter. We're all in that. We all classify as all of these things.
Yes.
And that is why I stand against the surveillance state and I stand against censorship and I stand against this just exaggeration of the media, including people on the left, weaponizing this just riot. That's what it was. And having the left cheer for the police state, having the left cheer for the CIA. That, look where we're at, guys. We have people on the left who are going to suffer the most, by the way, because the people who are anti-government, anti-establishment are going to suffer the most. And that's the end result. They were using the right and the white domestic terrorists as a little hook for you to be like, oh yeah, go right ahead.
It was the carrot on the stick, babe. It was the carrot on the stick, fam. And your pearl clutching is allowing fascism to come walking right into the door. You don't invite it in, ladies and gentlemen. Fam, anything else?
No, that's it.
Really quickly, I just got a clip of Russian jets intercepting and escorting a U.S. Navy spy ship, the Boeing P-8 Poseidon. This is over by the Black Sea. Well, fam, my question is, why the fuck are we over by the Black Sea in Russian territory? Take a quick look. This is some scary shit, ladies and gentlemen.
Putin called me and he's very upset.
He's very upset. Look at this shit. Looks like a video game. It's escorting it out of its airspace, meaning make a move and I will shoot your ass down. And that happens, World War.
Guys, seriously, pay attention to really what's important, what's really going on here. Like, seriously, like, don't let these distractions, Trump and all these, like, distractions happening. Like, it really, we're in a very, very tumultuous situation. I forgot one thing, Oz. I think I skipped it. It was the Lego thing, actually.
Sorry.
Let me go back. I think we skipped it. Here we are.
Legos are dangerous.
FBI hard at work. Yes. So the FBI has infiltrated a Bible study group in Virginia after the January 6th insurrection. If you go to that, Oz, we skipped it.
FBI hard at work.
It should be.
There he is.
Okay, 51. Yep, there you go. And also, I just want to point out that the. Oh wait, no. It's the one before it. There, the one before it.
Same page.
Same page. Right. CNN. The CNN link. That one. Yep. Okay, so the FBI infiltrated this Bible study group, right? They also, guys, I wanted to point this out really quick, that they have infiltrated the Proud Boys. They have infiltrated Antifa. They have infiltrated Boogaloo Boys. They have infiltrated Oath Keepers, 3%ers. The FBI is everywhere, right? Yeah. The FBI, there are ancient provocateurs in every fucking movement. So when you focus your energy on these groups, a lot of them that, you know, for instance, the Boogaloo Boys have an overarching anarchist, anti-establishment type of view, but that's it. There's different, you know, levels of political ideology in one. When you focus your energies on these groups, you're completely missing the point that these groups, the Proud Boys specifically, the 3%ers, the Oath Keepers, those people are infiltrated with police to continue this culture war grift against Antifa and vice versa, and back and forth, and on it goes. On and on it goes. It just keeps going and going and going, and it doesn't end, because that's part of the grift. That's part of the whole culture war phenomena. So you can't, you know, focus on these people. Sure, some of them may be dangerous, but at the same time, the people who hold power are far more dangerous. The institutions, the agencies. Again, how do we view power? That is the vast difference between myself and, say, somebody like you know, a neo-progressive or those people, ourselves, technically.
Well, who's more dangerous, fam? The Boogaloo Boys or the FBI?
Exactly.
Who's more dangerous?
The CIA?
The CIA or the Oath Keepers?
Come on,
who's
guys.
killed more people, the military-industrial complex or a bunch of Antifa members? I mean, you know what I'm saying, just saying both sides for the people who are like, oh my God, Antifa's the worst thing in the world. Come on, guys. Come on. And that was something that Magnus told his friends, like, you know, some of the people who were conservatives and they were focused on Antifa, like, all right, it's good. They should put all these laws and rules there. He's like, dude, they shouldn't, because once they do this to them, they're going to come do it to you. And sure enough,
yeah, you don't play
pie
team
in
sports.
your face.
The last thing,
the Hill article.
This is hilarious, guys. Whitney Webb said we enter a clown world, something about a worse clown world every day. It's just like a clown show at this point. So the FBI seized a fully constructed U.S. Capitol Lego set from home of an alleged rioter. I'm just going to read the first
alleged rioter.
A few sentences. Prosecutors detailed the finding in a court document by Robert Morse, who was arrested on June 11th at his home in Glenshaw, Pennsylvania. The government argued that Morse should be detained from court pending trial. So again, among the items that were there were a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, a neck gaiter, a military utility bag, a black tourniquet, and military fatigues.
There's nothing illegal there.
What are you talking about? What is this? Like, okay.
The way they frame shit too as well. And the way the big tech is doing this shit too as well, with a lot of videos and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is video out there. It's a reenactment of a couple going for lunch, and the girl is under distress. So she gives a letter to the waiter or whatnot and stuff. And eventually a cop shows up and pulls the people out. And it's like, they're trying to
they want you to rat.
Police, you know what I'm saying?
Thought police. They want you to rat on your family, your friends,
families and
everybody.
shit. It's really, really scary the way they're manipulating people. And they do it well because they know how to go after people for their emotions. You manipulate them on their emotions, not on solid, nuanced policies that mean the most. And those are the things that stand. And there are some things we have to take on the chin just to make sure that our civil liberties are protected. That means go along with things that we don't necessarily like. You know what I'm saying? And I'd say that to a lot of Trump people all the time when it comes to the burning of the flag. I know you hate it. I know you don't like it when they kneel and stuff like that, but that should be legal. There shouldn't be any, repercussions for doing those things because it's about protecting our civil liberties and personal property, that kind of thing and shit. So
there's hypocrisy on both ends, dude. Yeah. There's hypocrisy on both ends, and I'm so done with like the hypocrisy on both ends. And I'm so glad AOC, the squad, and Biden gave more money to these agencies so they could spend it on arresting people for fucking Legos. That is the clown show we live in, and yet we have people still clutching their pearls about the insurrection that never fucking happened. I'm so sorry. It is ridiculous what's happening. I've had it up to here with that. So
yeah, well,
let's read some Super Rays and get on out of here.
Pong ball. Over 400 people over there. Yes, let me slip 80 people on the Rokfin. That's good, guys. I'm sick of this shit 2 feet, says Kevin Shanholzer. And here's Shadowban Refugee. Shout out to the entire MCSE fam. If you haven't seen Shadowban Refugee, he's on the new game show. He was fantabulous for having VTYEE, what is that? Vite foresight that these bitch ass putos that LARP revolutionary were too blind or too stupid to see. These punk ass cuck leftists can't be bothered to read the history of false flags and COINTELPRO doing for half a second because it would shatter their comfort zone. Comfort zones are like sitting in your own shit. It's gross, but it's warm and it's yours. That's such a Shadowban Refugee Super Ray. God, I love you, Paulie. You're the best. Shadowban Refugee says these frightened authoritarian little shits and the DSA, Democratic Party, MPP, etc. just want people who value the strength and hardships of liberty, whether they be left or right, to be the ones to buy their boots and lick them clean. They're not interested in liberation from capital and the state. They just want to be king of the working class with their soft hands. Fuck the state. Break it.
I'm with you.
Shadowban Refugee. Bring in the heat, fam.
As usual.
Bring in the heat. We love you, Shadowban Refugee.
So on the screen, he has the convocouch.store, the merch, all of that. Make sure to check out our shirts, Defund the Pentagon.
Anti-imperialist.
There's a bunch of them. Guys, check them out. I Heart Putin. So many. So like I said, I spoke to him on the phone. He's doing great. He sends his love.
There's still masks
vegan,
for all
but
that
who
want to wear your mask.
Well, you kind of have to wear it for an Uber or a Lyft. They still
it's so
ask
ridiculous, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna.
The other day, Steve went into a coffee place. They made him put his mask on to pay. Use the Convo Couch store. Use the code "Fuck Biden, Fuck Trump" for 15% off. That just says it like it is. Fuck the two-party duopoly.
Exactly.
Fuck the two-party illusion. That's all they are. Fam, anything else before we get on out of here?
Nope.
Oz, you got anything to say on that end of the woods?
No, I'm good over here. I'm good at this end of the woods. So we're no Helen back this week, right?
No Helen back this week. We're on vacay. Jilly Love says Whitney Webb was on Primo Radical. Well, Whitney Webb's going to be on the Convo Couch. So we'll be doing a little interview with Whitney soon, and we'll get that up. Okay. So I was just reading some stuff in the chat. Guys, thank you so much for everybody who joined on in today. Thank you for all of you on YouTube. I know we don't pay as much attention to the chat anymore as we do the Rokfin, but the Rokfin is the place where they allow us to say the things we want to say.
Yep.
It's not you fams on the YouTube thread that we're mad at. We love you guys, all of you. Mariana, Steve Wilbrandt. Steve Wilbrandt was great seeing you this weekend at the Assange event. Steve Wilbrandt had 2 burgers, fam. Saul Construct, Monarch, Critical Minds, Jilly Love, Pirate Alex, Manny Buds, all you guys are amazing. E. Heller, thank you so much, guys, for joining on in. If you can go over to Rokfin, we'd appreciate it even more. So for Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella,
thank you to all our Patreons as well. Oz on those 1s and 2, fams.
Combo out.
Guys, we'll see you soon.
Bye.